Ma'am, this is Kushireddy from ITA, and my topic for Tech Talk in Python is embedding Python in another applications. So, apart from Python, we have many coding platforms like C, C++, Java, etc. But these days, Python is very popular because of its versatile nature or because of its characteristics, and it is very easy to use. So for that reason, Python is very famous these days, and as well as C, C++, Java are also used, but compared to them, Python is used a bit more because of its characteristics, and it is very simple to understand when compared to C language or Java language. C and Java languages are a bit complicated when compared to Python. So Python is easy to understand. So it is used a lot and it is very famous these days. So before going to the topic, let us know what is Python and its basic characteristics. So what is Python? Python is a general purpose, high level interpreted language with easy syntax and semantics. So that means Python is a general purpose language. It can be used for any type of purpose. For all the general purposes, we can use Python program for programming any code or anything. And it is high level interpreted language. That means we can give in Python, we can give the code in human understandable language. And in Python will convert it into machine language, that is binary language, by using the interpreter. So it is high level interpreted language with easy syntax and dynamic semantics. That means it has easy syntaxes. That means easy formats to write the program. And dynamic semantics means it has n number of inbuilt standard libraries. So you no need to download anything from outside. It has already inbuilt libraries and it has everything in itself. So Python is a general purpose, high level interpreted language with easy syntax and dynamic semantics. When and by whom the Python program was discovered? Python was discovered by Guido van Rossum in the year 1991. So to download the Python, you can directly download it from Google by typing www.python.org. So let us know what are the characteristics of Python which makes it very special and easy. So first is simplicity. That is, Python program is very simple to understand. That is, it is having easy syntax with which we can write the programs in an easy way and we can understand the programs very easily. So first characteristic is simplicity. Next, it is open source. So open source is nothing but free of cost. It is open. The Python source is open for everybody. Anybody can use it without cost. That means it is free. We have to not buy it. There is no need of buying the Python program or Python application for writing the programs. You can use it for free of cost. And the third characteristic is portability. That is easy to transfer applications from one computer to another. That is, if you run a program in one computer or an application in one computer, the same application can be run in another computer as well. So that is called as portability. And the next characteristic is embeddable and extensible. That is, we can combine the code from another program in Python. So embeddable and extensible means if you want to write a program in a more easier way. So if you wanted to combine any program, that is in Python, you can combine any C code or in C++ code, that programs you can combine in Python and finish the program in an easy way. So that is called as embeddable and extensible. Interpreted. So interpreted means converts high level language into binary language. So generally in Python, we will give the program in human understandable language. So, but human understandable language cannot be understood by our computers or our systems. So it should be transferred to binary language, which is system language. So in Python, it uses interpreter to convert high level language, that is human understandable language, into machine language, that is binary language, so that machine can take the program and run the program. Large standard libraries and object oriented. So the next characteristic is large standard libraries. So Python has large standard libraries which is inbuilt, so that there is no need of any external source. We have everything in those standard libraries, and it is generally object oriented. So Python applications, where is Python used? So first in web development. Web development means to create web pages like www.iare.ac.in, etc. And next is desktop GUI applications for graphical representations and all, for console-based applications, and for software development, that is for software companies, they use Python applications, and for scientific and numeric applications, and business applications, audio or video based applications. So audio or video based applications, examples are Zoom and YouTube, and image processing applications, and for 3D CAD applications. Where is Python used in industries? So generally these days, Python is used in a vast, that means it is used in a large way because it is very easy, and most of them are trying to use Python because it is easy to understand and the codes are easy to write, because in Python you can finish the code in minimum number of lines when compared to C or C++ or Java. So that will also reduce our time period. So many of the industries are preferring to use Python for that purpose. Some of them are Google, Netflix, Yahoo, Dropbox, NASA, and YouTube. What is embedding in Python? Python is an embeddable language. That is, if we feel to use other programming languages to perform a specific part of a project, Python allows us to use another programming languages with it. Also, we can embed Python with other languages. So, embedding in Python is nothing but Python allows us to embed other languages in itself. So you can embed C or C++ in Python and write the program and run it. To make the program easy, you use this method. Embedding provides your application with the ability to implement some of the functionality of your application in Python rather than C or C++. This can be used for many purposes. One example would be to allow users to tailor the application to their needs by writing some scripts in Python. Embedding Python is similar to extending it, but not quite. The difference is that when you extend Python, the main program of the application is still the Python interpreter. While if you embed Python, the main program may have nothing to do with Python. Instead, some parts of the application occasionally call the Python interpreter to run some Python code. So when you compare embedding and extending, they're a bit same but not completely same, because when you extend a program, still the code runs in Python itself, in Python interpreter itself, whereas when you embed the Python language, sometimes there is no need of the Python interpreter. Occasionally it calls off Python interpreter to run some Python code. So this is the difference between embedding and extending Python. So if you are embedding Python, you are providing your own main program. One of the things this main program has to do is initialize the Python interpreter. At the very least, you have to call the function py_initialize. Then later you can call the interpreter from any part of the application. When embedding Python, the interface code does some of the steps. So let us see what are those steps. First, it converts data values from C to Python. Next, perform a function call to next we have to perform a function call to a Python interface routine using the converted values. And then we have to convert the data values from the call from Python to C. So these three steps are performed when embedding Python. The interface code does these 3 steps during embedding. So embedding Python in C++. It is also possible to embed Python in a C++ program. Precisely how this is done will depend on the details of the C++ system used in general. You will need to write the main program in C++ compiler to compile and link your program. There is no need to recompile Python itself using C++. Today, I would probably use Python embedded C application to perform tasks. The C application would rarely change. It would take in information from the Python component and reprocess the data for the desired output format. The Python component would parse the source text and would be able to handle any type of database. Only thing needed is rewriting the Python component embedded in the C. So these days, usually people may prefer Python embedded in C to perform tasks in an easy way. So there are basically 3 steps for running a Python function from C++. So import the function, call the function, get the return value of the function. So these are the 3 steps that should be done to run a Python function in C++. Then let us break down our code one line at a time. First, we create the variables access and call the function. Notice that all the types are py object pointers. The variable p name corresponds to the Python file we want to access to get the function. Notice there is not any .py extension on the file name. P module imports the file specified as a module in our Python interpreter. P function corresponds to the name of the function that we want to call from the Python file. Next, we specify the argument for the function. So we'll specify the argument in function p args by using py tuple underscore pack. The first value of the function corresponds to the number of arguments we want to specify to the function. In this case, there is only one argument for our Python function. The following arguments to the py tuple underscore pack function are the actual arguments to our requested Python function as Python objects. You need to read the API to figure out what the corresponding Python objects or functions are for the data types you want to use in your code. In this case, we are using py unicode underscore from string to send a string argument to Python with the value of grudge.p value corresponds to the return value of the function after it is done executing with the specified arguments. However, this type of p value is currently a py object. We use underscore py unicode underscore as string to convert the return value of the function type constant character. Once again, you will need to look up the Python function that you need in the API reference. So this is one of the example of the program for embedding. Next, we are going to embed Python in Java. So embedding Python in Java, the Java bridge loads a Java class org.cellprofiler.javabridge.cppython that can be used to execute Python code. The class can be used within a Java code called from the Python interpreter, or it can be used within Java to run Python embedded in Java class org.cellprofiler.javascript.cpython. The CPython class builds the Python interpreter to the JVM and provides the ability to execute Python scripts. So for execution, we have some of the arguments. First is script. The Python script is to be executed. Next is locals, a map of the name of a Java object in the Python execution context to the Java object itself. The object in the map have local scope. A null value can be used if no locals are to be defined. Next comes globals. A map of the name of a Java object itself. The objects in the map have global scope. A map of the Java object to the Java object itself. The objects in the map have global scope. If a null value is used, globals defaults to the built-in globals. So exec executes the script passed within the Python interpreter. The interpreter adds the built-in globals to the globals passed in, then executes the script. The same map may be used for both the locals and the globals. This mode may seem more familiar to those who regularly script Python and expect the import statement to have a global effect. There is no eval method. You can retrieve values by passing a container object such as an array or map as one of the locals, and you can set elements in the object with values to be returned. So this is an example for Python embedded in Java. So execute is a synonym for exec, which is a Python keyword. Use execute in place of exec to call Python from a Java bridge C wrapper for C Python. You may want to maintain references to Python objects across script executions. The following functions let a Java caller refer to Python value, which can be a base type or an object, via a token which may be exchanged for the value at any time. The Java code is responsible for managing the references lifetime. So there is one example here. Import Java, C Python is equal to javabridge.jclassWrapper org.cellprofiler.javabridge.cpython, and D is equal to javabridge.jclassWrapper java.util.hashtable, and result is javabridge.jclassWrapper java.util.arraylist, and d.put result. You will get the result in this way. So this is one of the example of programming in Java Bridge. And this is another example. So for performing this, you have to import Java Bridge. So thank you. I hope you understood this. Thank you so much.